What's going on, guys? Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to our content, we create content like what you're watching right now simply to educate and engage individuals like yourselves on mental health awareness and suicide prevention through pop culture. My name's Captain Nostalgia, and I am a writer, podcaster, and the director of our film festival entitled Horrific Hope. Guys would like more information about who we are, what we do, podcasts, more movie reviews like this, links to our social media, Patreon, and most importantly, our mental health resource library. Check the links in the descriptions below. Now, originally, I wasn't planning on doing a spoiler-free version of a review for this film, but this movie crawled under my skin, and I couldn't wait to record the episode we're recording the day after this video is being shot. And I'm also going to be announcing that we announced on our socials we're going to be putting this our episode out Wednesday. I'm actually moving it up to Monday because honestly, this is a movie that I think we're going to be talking about for quite some time. And this movie that I'm talking about, of course, is David Cronenberg's first film in 12 years. And I guess 12 years. It doesn't matter. And it's called Crimes of the Future, which I have also ironically learned that there's another Cronenberg film made in 1970, also called Crimes of the Future. It has nothing to do with this movie. It's not a remake. He's not rehashing anything. I haven't seen it. Of course, I'm going off of our friends over at Movies, Our Therapy, and Streaming Things. Chris from that series actually ended up doing an episode of Us where he talked about his road to sobriety, and I highly recommend checking out that episode. I'll provide a link in the descriptions below, and if you guys want to just check it out on YouTube, stay tuned to the end of the video, and I'll provide a link in one of these lower corners. There's a lot that you need to know about this plot, so bear with me. This movie takes place in a dystopian future where select individuals, I guess is a better word, start growing new organs within themselves and can actually bring them out and tattoo, and it's kind of complicated to describe the society in which this takes place on, but follow with me. I promise we'll be better prepared when we're talking in the episode because there's a lot about this society that you can't really talk about without getting into spoiler territory, so bear with me. Lea Seydoux and Viggo Mortensen play performers that specialize in this new form of body modification, and they get roped into a idea for an act that essentially could present a new wave of human evolution. That's all I'm going to say. I haven't seen the trailers for this movie, so I went in completely blind, not knowing anything about it. So if there is any mild spoilers in there, I gravely apologize because I was trying not to spoil this movie. But when you're describing the plot, it's incredibly hard not to dip into that pond just a little bit, so bear with me. This movie's like if body horror and art house films had an offspring, it would be Crimes of the Future. There are some truly disgusting and well-provoked body horror in this movie, but it's never presented for shock value like other and most body horror is. It's presented in a very artful and artistic, and I would dare even say beautiful way. The fact that this movie kind of embodies the more grotesque side of art will make this a very divisive film. It's probably one of the only movies that I've ever put on this channel to talk about and review that I would say this is a trigger warning. If you are squeamish, if you do not like the sight of blood or abnormal cultural stuff, this is maybe not the movie for you. That said, I feel like this movie is going to be this generation's Hellraiser. This movie takes themes of pleasure and pain and really presents it in a really artistic, thought-provoking manner. Say that David Cronenberg presents such a compelling story in this one that I honestly, this is just, like I said, this is a film that has not left me. This is a film that is thought-provoking more films. And much like Men, which I gave a spoiler-free review about last week, and we also have our episode coming on it tomorrow. We talked about how this is a movie that is very thought-provoking. It's a movie that warrants a lot of repeat visits, and honestly, there's something about it that it says a lot about what we deem as far as a society when it comes to being, quote, beautiful. Like, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Like, I don't know what else to say. Viggo Mortensen in this and Seydoux are just absolutely incredible together. The two have just impeccable chemistry. Their acting in this is truly exceptional. Kristen Stewart is another knockout and standout performance from this. I think she kind of takes that awkwardness that she's kind of been memed for over the years and really utilizes it in a very, very powerful way that she actually commands the screen when she's on this. And I really like that about her. I really like how her career has kind of gone, and this one I feel like is probably the strongest performance that, outside of Spencer, I've seen her in the last 10 years. And then there's Scott Speedman. There's probably a reason that his name's not on the posters. Scott Speedman feels like the problem child of this movie. Like, don't get me wrong, he's truly fantastic in this movie. But when it comes to the plot, it feels like he's just shoehorned in here. Like, he is my biggest problem with this movie. This movie is fantastic, and they set up Scott Speedman to truly be a great movie villain, and then just like, nope, they take a left turn with his character, and there are so many plot lines with his specific character that just go unresolved. And into a lot of David Lynch as of recently, like, that's kind of been like my mental health and decompression. I know that sounds really weird because it's David Lynch, and Lynch is a heavy filmmaker, to say the least. I know Cronenberg is also too. I have not seen nearly enough Cronenberg to really kind of call myself a Cronenberg either fan or a Cronenberg. I'm not as knowledgeable with Cronenberg as I am with David Lynch, and I know David Lynch is really famous kind of for having like unresolved storylines that kind of go off, and then you're like supposed to like theorize about it, and it's supposed to make for great conversations. I've only seen this movie one time. I feel like there are elements of this movie that are trying to bring in that Lynchian sense of storytelling, where there are quite literally a few different storylines, mostly revolving around Scott Speedman, that just don't ever see resolution. And that's fine, but there are things that happen in here without really any rhyme or reason, and it's involving mostly two characters that aren't Scott Speedman, but I will just say that two characters are presented one way in the first half of the film, second half of the film an entirely different way, and there's no real explanation as to why, and it's like literally two different people completely. Again, I think there's a lot of things that is under the surface of this film that I have yet to actually see and need to study, and I definitely think that on multiple repeat visits, I'm probably going to feel differently about these complaints, but for here, as a film and as a first-time experience, it's a complaint. Even going back to him, he, again, delivers a great performance, and I will say, though, his character is so interesting, and there's so much lore that his character brings to the story, and a lot of that lore just kind of really doesn't go anywhere. Another character, again, great performance in this movie. I'm not really sure why he's supposed to be in here, but Welket Bungue is another one. Sorry if I mispronounced that name in any way, shape, or form. Sorry. But he's a character that I guess I kind of can like force an answer as to why he exists in this film, but his character just shows up in really weird moments, and there's never kind of explained like why him and Viggo Mortensen have the relationship that they do in the movie. And yeah, like if you took the movie out, it would essentially be the same exact film. I would love to see a director's cut of this movie. I just want to say that, like, I think the concept of their relationship is great, but I would want to kind of explore it a little bit more. I really love the world. I love the lore of this movie. I think that the set design is really fantastic. I love the look of the cinematography in this. It is intoxicating, to say the least. I feel like I'm just going to keep gushing about this movie, so I'm just going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and give this our Rorschach rating scale. Check out the episode this Monday for all the spoiler talk. It's abyss gazing. It's going to be found right on the Victims and Villains feed, wherever you guys get your podcast from. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I really, really love this film. I can't wait. This makes me want to jump more into David Cronenberg's filmography. I think this man has a lot to offer and is really right up my alley. I don't think I was quite there as a cinephile yet, but seeing this film makes me just say, let's go for it. That brief David Cronenberg gush aside, this movie is filled with strong performances, just intoxicating cinematography, stunning set design, marvelous pacing, by the way. And to top it off, there are just all around, like, this is a spectacularly beautiful, morbid film. It's truly haunting, but again, it has some just unnecessary quirks that are just kind of left to our own devices, and that kind of concerns me. So I want to see this movie more and see if my rating changes, but for now, it's a 4. And now it's time for our mental health moments. If you guys are new to our content, mental health moment is where we take a theme of mental health woven throughout or plucked from the movie which we were reviewing, and talk about it for just a few moments in hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. I think it's really easy to talk about a movie that is dissecting what is and what is not beautiful, because the film is just woven throughout the film of themes of what is beautiful by societies. But rather, I'm going to take a specific quote from this movie and talk about it for just a few moments. So there's a point in the movie where one of the characters actually says, the desire to be open is the start of something beautiful. Let that sink in. Because honestly speaking, when we start to open up and we stop stigmatizing what we're feeling when it comes to mental health, it is the start of what we might not in that moment think of as beautiful, but in retrospect we will see as something beautiful, something intoxicating, something gorgeous, something radiant. Because as individuals, we are growing, we are persevering, we are standing up and taking back our mental health from negative energies like depression and anxiety, and redirecting that all of that stuff into something that is positive, like going to therapy, talking to people that we trust, or even saying it's okay not to be okay and realizing that. I think far too often we get under this impression that we have to have all the answers and we have to be all together, and that's far from the case. At the end of the day, it is okay not to be okay. Dare to be open, dare to be vulnerable, dare to be transparent. Because 9 times out of 10, it is the start of something that is going to grow into something spectacular, something beautiful. Oftentimes when we plant things like vulnerability and are open and we're honest and talking about our mental health, we 9 times out of 10 end up reaping something that's going to make a relationship stronger, that's going to pull out toxic relationships or traits that we have acquired in the midst of depression. That list just goes on and on and on. The challenge at the end of all of this is dare to be vulnerable. Dare to be open. Because that desire, it's going to yield some truly spectacular things. I hope you guys check out the episode, and if you guys need any mental health resources, please click the links in the description below. And again, Monday, our episode on Crimes of the Future is going to hit wherever you guys get your podcast from. Make sure you guys check it out, and check out this one. This is just, again, David Cronenberg at his finest. Have a great night, guys.